Welcome back. I'm Colby Shear, Atlanta-based realtor and community association consultant. Thanks for tuning back into my channel, bringing your dreams home. Today we're going to talk about community associations. What are they, why are they, and why the hell do you care? All right, diving right in. What is a community association? A community association is a legal entity made up of three key components. Membership is mandatory and automatic. As soon as you buy a house within that community, you're a member. Is that there are a cluster of governing documents that bind all owners within the community to the association. Third is mandatory assessments against all owners within the community to share in the cost of operating and maintaining the association. How the heck does an association come to be? So within that cluster of governing documents that I mentioned, there are three specific documents. There is the plat for the community, which is very important. We'll get into that a little bit later. The Articles of Incorporation, which incorporate the community, and the Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions, which give the association basically its power. We're going to get to know all of those documents from just a very high view of them. We're not going to go into too much detail today, just a highlight of what they are and why they're important. The purpose of a community association is to preserve, maintain, and enhance the community as a whole and also the properties within it. So it actually is there to preserve your property values and also to make sure the community is consistent and cohesive with that common goal. Let's talk now about the governing documents and the hierarchy of importance are going to be laws. Obviously, federal laws take precedence. Those include things like the FHA, the ADA, the FCC, etc. State laws, which also include the FHA. Here in Georgia, our FHA laws very closely mirror the federal FHA laws. But there are other things within state laws, things like nonprofit codes and laws specific to community associations. So in Georgia, we have the Georgia Condominium Act, sorry, and the Georgia Property Owners Association Act. And then there are city or county local ordinances. And of course, those are things like zoning, pet laws, swimming pool guidelines, fencing rules, all of that. Then the plat for the community comes in. The plat is super important because not only is it what approval was granted to the declarant by the Planning Commission, what zoning restrictions were in place for the community, but most importantly for the homeowners and the governors of the community, meaning the board of directors and any committees, are going to be any requirements that the city or county put into place for things like fencing to be installed or not installed. And then if fencing was to be installed, who is required to maintain it? What buffers exist? The Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions, I often refer to them as either the Declaration or the CCR, same thing. This document is going to go into more detail about easements, boundaries, maintenance responsibilities, both the associations and the homeowners, what homeowners need to ask permission for, what they don't need to ask permission for, voting rights, how many votes. That's very important if you're buying into a community that is still in control of the declarant. You're going to want to know if you even have any voting rights. At what point do the homeowners take over control from the declarant? All of those sorts of things are in that declaration. Next is the Articles of Incorporation. That typically states the initial governance of the community. It sets it up under the law. The bylaws go into more detail on how the community is to be governed, how many meetings have to be held, and sometimes when, how much notice has to be given, whether votes can be taken electronically, by ballot, how is the board elected, how long does the board serve, and then how are the officers elected from within that board of directors. Next, you're going to have board resolutions, which are typically going to be policies and procedures that may change over time. They don't quite rise to the level of needing to be an amendment to the declaration, but they're a little more formal than rules and regulations. Which brings us to rules and regulations, such as pool rules, tennis court rules, clubhouse rules, design guidelines, such as what sort of bed edging or ground cover material is allowed, what sort of fences, how high they can be, what style they can be, how far up from the rear corners of the house, so on and so forth. The hierarchy of the documents is really important to understand because the higher document will almost always take precedence. I say almost because lower documents can be more restrictive than higher documents, but never less restrictive. However, they cannot take away a right that a higher document grants. Things like the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Fair Housing Act, those things cannot be superseded by a governing document lower on the hierarchy. When I say they can be more restrictive, it's going to be things like your county pet law says that dogs must be under the control of a responsible person at all times when not on the owner's property. So this could mean verbal command, whereas then the association can go in and say, no, they actually need to be on a leash within our community if they're not on the owner's property. So it's things like that where they can be more restrictive, but not less. Let's talk very briefly about voluntary associations. You don't see these a lot anymore. Most municipalities don't allow for them. They're typically responsible for a pool or entrance that you're not obligated to pay to help maintain and operate. That's an option. One really important thing to know about a voluntary association is it has absolutely nothing to do with any deed restrictions, which may still apply to your community. Even if you opt out of the association, you cannot opt out of deed restrictions. So there may not be an HOA that is providing strict oversight of those, but it's going to be really important to know what those are, even if you're buying into one of these communities and you say, hey, I'm not going to join the HOA, so it doesn't matter. It does matter. Your neighbors can get together and sue you to require you to comply. Now, in a lot of those communities, the declaration or the CCR is not very restrictive. A lot of times they were really just put in place as a protection for the builder. Once the builder is gone, there's really nothing in them that matters. That's not always true. Sometimes there are still restrictions on things like sheds or chain link fencing, RVs and boats being kept in view, those sorts of things. So even if you're buying in a community that says no HOA or voluntary HOA, it's still very important to know what deed restrictions are on file for your property. That will come up in your title exam. Most potential purchasers don't see the documents that go with the title exam. The mortgage company does, and they decide if they're important or not, but that doesn't tell you as the homeowner who will be living there and obligated to them if they're important to you. I think that's going to do it for today. This has been a little bit longer than I wanted to, but please drop a line in the comments. Is there anything that you would like to see cover in future videos? Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on any upcoming posts. Thank you so much. Be well and see you next time.